Good afternoon and welcome to Madeline Cooks. This afternoon I'm going to prepare stuffed artichokes for you. And I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible and show you how you can make a really delicious side dish. This recipe I got from my grandmother. And my grandmother came from Naples, Italy, and this is how they make the stuffed artichokes. So let's begin with taking a really nice green artichoke. You rinse it under water, and after you've rinsed all the leaves thoroughly, you shake out the water, make them nice and dry, and you take your artichoke, bring it over to a carving board or a hard counter, and pound them. Now, you're pounding it purposely so you get the artichoke to open into a flower. Now it's much easier for me to pry the petals open. I want these petals open as much as possible because I'm now going to insert breadcrumbs and Parmesan Reggiano cheese in between all the little crevices and spaces. This is really quite a large artichoke, so it's opened very nicely now. I'm going to place it inside a bowl. And in this cup I have about 3/4 of a cup of seasoned breadcrumbs, to which I've added 1/4 cup of Parmesan Reggiano cheese. And now that I've pried this open, I'm going to start to fill the crevices with the breadcrumb. Now first I'm just going over the top. Now we're going to pound it down a little so it settles. And now we're going to put it, if you look closely, I'm going to try to pry and separate these petals and pour the breadcrumb right into the openings. See how big this is? Now, it only takes a few minutes. I've already prepared 2 others, and I'm using this one as a demonstration for you. But after you have them well filled, I'm going to then enter it into a pot in which we will place chicken broth. And when you place the chicken broth, you want the chicken broth to come up to about this high on the artichoke. You don't want to submerge it and cover it, but to about within an inch of the top of the artichoke. Now let's try to get into the outer leaves as well, because if you cook these properly, all the leaves will be tender and very easy to eat. Now you notice it's getting to be a bigger and bigger flower as we go along. Now here's another crevice that we haven't gotten, so we'll put it in here. Now we have that nicely filled. I'm going to now take a pot like this, and I'm going to pour into it chicken broth. If you already have homemade chicken broth from a chicken that you boiled for soup, you may use that. If not, the ones that you can buy in the supermarket, there's so many different brands, are going to be fine. Now I'm pouring that in about halfway. I'm going to submerge this bottom into it to see how much more we have to go. If you come up close with the camera, you'll see that we've got to fill it with a little more. Now I'm not going to go up to the 3/4 mark yet, because to this I'm going to add some tomato sauce. This is about a cup of tomato sauce, which I'm adding to the chicken broth, and I'm also going to put it over the top of this. On top of that, we're going to put a little olive oil, drizzle a little olive oil over the top, and then we have our lid. Push it down nice and tight, and we're going to put this on the stove on a medium flame to bring it to a boil. Once it starts to boil, we'll lower that flame to simmer. We want it to simmer for about 40 minutes. The reason for this is that you want the leaves to be very tender. So I'm going to move this one to the back, put this on the front. Alright, that's about right. I'm going to give it a little light. And when we're done, this is how it's going to look. And the sauce, which is a really thick broth, because a lot of the breadcrumb, as it's cooking, some of the breadcrumb will come out into the pot and mix with that chicken broth and the tomato sauce, and you end up getting a really delicious broth. Now you can take a baster when you're cooking it and just fill it up like this and just add it more over to the top. So in the course of your cooking, because you want it nice and wet, these leaves will be tender and delicious. The breadcrumb will be just to die for. Delicious. And of course, when you prepare your first batch, you're going to put in whatever seasonings you want. I usually put into my sauce a generous portion of parsley, about a tablespoon of parsley. I'll take about a teaspoon of oregano, put that into the sauce as well. That's already in there. A shake or two of onion powder. I always like to put in about a quarter of a teaspoon of basil and about 2 pinches of thyme. Stir it, cover it either with a lid or with tin foil. When I use tin foil, I take a fork and just punch a few holes so that the steam can escape and yet it'll cook without boiling over. And that's how you make stuffed artichokes.